In the vast and terrible expanse of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, there are few constants: death, war, and the unrelenting decay of hope. It is a place where reason has long since been replaced by dogma, where the stars themselves burn in endless conflict. But what if, in this universe of eternal darkness, something alien to its laws arrived? Something unpredictable, compassionate, and utterly opposed to the cruelty of the age. What if the Doctor, the last of the Time Lords, stepped through the fabric of reality and found himself in the 41st millennium? Before we start, don't forget to subscribe and have notifications on. It begins not with thunder, but with silence, a lonely stretch of void between dead worlds. A drifting Imperial survey vessel, its hull cracked and pitted by millennia of neglect, scans the ruins of an extinct civilization. The crew, gaunt and joyless, recite their litanies to the Omnissiah, their words more habit than faith, and then, without warning, the sensors scream. A distortion blooms in space, rippling like a heartbeat across the void. Lights flicker. Cogitators fail. The navigator cries out as his third eye glimpses something impossible. Moments later, the distortion collapses, leaving behind a small, blue box, ancient, weathered, out of place in every possible way. The TARDIS. Inside, the Doctor, curious as ever, steps away from the console, his brow furrowed as he studies the readouts. "Oh, that's not right," he mutters, pacing around the console's crystalline surface. "Wrong century, wrong galaxy, wrong everything, really." He pulls a lever, listens to the hum of the time rotor, and then stops. The TARDIS hums back, almost in defiance. "Oh, you're serious? You've locked the coordinates," he says, glancing at the ceiling. "You've brought us here on purpose." The doors creak open, and the Doctor steps out into a corridor lined with rusted steel and flickering lumen strips. The air smells of oil, incense, and fear. He walks slowly, coat billowing, taking in the bizarre fusion of machine and ritual around him. Mechanicus sigils, prayers etched into the metal, a culture that worships technology yet understands none of it. "A theocracy built on broken science," he whispers, fascinating and tragic. When the first crewman finds him, the Doctor smiles disarmingly. "Hello, I'm the Doctor. Terribly sorry for just appearing in your ship. I think your void shields might be leaking, by the way. You might want to patch that up before you explode." The crewman doesn't answer. He's too busy reaching for his last pistol, trembling with the reflex of indoctrination. "You are unauthorized," he stammers. "State your allegiance to the Emperor of Mankind." "The Emperor?" The Doctor tilts his head. "Oh, that's new. Wait, mankind? You mean humanity? Oh dear, that's a very long story, isn't it?" Within minutes, he's surrounded by guards, all wearing grim expressions and purity seals. The Doctor keeps smiling. He's dealt with worse introductions. But when they drag him before the ship's magos, he realizes just how far from home he truly is. The Magos Dominus, a being more machine than flesh, studies him with unblinking optical lenses. "You are not logged in the data archives. No gene record, no Imperial identification. Explain your existence." "Well, I've been trying to do that for centuries," the Doctor says cheerfully. "Still haven't quite nailed it down. But if I had to guess, temporal displacement maybe? Wrong side of a dimensional fault line? You'd be amazed how easy it is to take a wrong turn when you're steering a Type 40. The Magos processes the words in silence, the sound of gears clicking softly beneath his hood. "Temporal technology is heresy," he says at last. "Your machine will be dismantled. You will be interrogated." The Doctor sighs. Oh, you people, and your dismantling. Nobody ever just asks nicely, do they? What follows is not violence, but procedure. The Adeptus Mechanicus attempts to interface with the TARDIS only to find their minds overwhelmed by incomprehensible data. Some go mad. Others simply vanish. The ship resists all intrusion, its perception filter bending around their sensors, its defenses subtly altering reality to keep itself safe. The Doctor warns them to stop, but they do not listen. In the end, the TARDIS protects itself, sealing the cargo bay in a blinding surge of golden light. The Doctor knows then that he must leave. He slips away through the confusion, navigating the ship's labyrinthine corridors until he reaches a viewing deck. Outside the viewport, the stars shimmer, cold, lifeless, ancient. He senses the truth of this universe already, a place where hope has been forgotten, where every advance is drowned in superstition and fear, a civilization that conquered the stars, he murmurs, and lost itself along the way. He sets the sonic screwdriver to scan mode. The readings confirm his suspicion. This isn't just the far future. This is another universe. The laws of time are fractured here, distorted by something far older and far darker than the Time War. The warp, the Mechanicus called it, a realm of pure emotion, chaos made manifest. The Doctor shivers. Even the Time Lords feared such things. Before he can return to the TARDIS, the ship shudders violently. Red alarms flare. Over the Vox, voices scream about contact, unidentified vessels approaching, boarding signatures detected. The Doctor looks out and sees them. Jagged silhouettes, like shards of night. Engines burning with sickly light raiders. Pirates, but not human. Eldar corsairs. The boarding begins in chaos. Shuriken fire cuts through metal and bone alike. The Doctor ducks behind a pillar as the Xenos warriors sweep the deck, moving with impossible grace. "Oh, brilliant," he mutters. "Elves with machine guns. Just what I needed." He spots a wounded crewman nearby, clutching his side, and rushes to help. "Hold still. You're going to be fine. Well, relatively fine," the Doctor says, activating his sonic to cauterize the wound. The man stares at him, in disbelief. "Why would you help me?" he gasps. "You're no Imperial." "Because it's the right thing to do," the Doctor answers simply. "Now get up, and try not to die." The Eldar breach the command deck moments later. Their leader, a lithe figure with eyes like dying stars, pauses as she sees the Doctor. For a second, she hesitates, as though recognizing something she shouldn't. "You," she says softly, "you do not belong here." "Story of my life," the Doctor replies. "Now, unless you're here for tea, I suggest you turn around before this lot decide to shoot everyone." She smiles thinly. "We came for your ship, Time Lord." The words freeze him. "You know what I am." "Of course," she says. "Even in the webway, there are whispers of your kind, but your kind do not belong in this cycle of reality. You are an anomaly and an opportunity." With a gesture, her warriors take aim. The Doctor doesn't move. His eyes narrow, not with anger, but with sorrow. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," he says. "That ship is alive, and it protects itself." Too late. Outside, the TARDIS pulses again, its presence warping the fabric of space. The Corsairs falter as the gravity shifts, the air singing with golden energy. The Doctor rushes forward, shouting over the chaos. "Everyone out! Now!" In a flash of light, the deck vanishes. When the Doctor awakens, he's lying on solid ground. The sky above him burns with 1,000 suns, each fighting to outshine the others. The ruins of a city stretch around him, vast, gothic, dead. The TARDIS stands nearby, humming softly, but the ship that carried him here is gone, erased from existence. He's alone again, or so he thinks. From the shadows, a voice calls out, calm, cold, and inhumanly measured. Identify yourself, wanderer. The doctor turns slowly. A figure steps into view, tall, armored, the Imperial Aquila emblazoned on his chest. His eyes are like polished steel, and his presence radiates absolute authority. Inquisitor Kalandravik, the man announces. By order of the Holy Inquisition, you are under suspicion of warp manipulation and heretical technology. You will submit for questioning. The doctor sighs. Oh, wonderful. The space police. He smiles faintly, brushing dust from his coat. All right, Inquisitor Dravik, let's talk. The two men stood in the broken square, surrounded by the relics of a civilization that had long since turned to dust. Wind whispered through the hollow spires, carrying with it the faint echo of chanting, ghosts of 1,000 forgotten prayers. The doctor met the Inquisitor's gaze with the same calm defiance he'd offered to tyrants and gods alike. Questioning, the doctor said quietly, I'm familiar with that, though I usually prefer a cup of tea and a friendly chat over the whole interrogation routine. Inquisitor Dravik did not smile. You will find the Inquisition less conversational. Your vessel has exhibited signs of warp interference. 2 Imperial lives were lost aboard a ship you boarded without authorization. You will explain your nature and your purpose now. The doctor's expression shifted, still gentle, but edged with melancholy. You're not wrong to be suspicious. You live in a universe where trust gets people killed. But I assure you, Inquisitor, I'm not your enemy. I'm here by accident. Dravik's mechanical retinue surrounded him, servo skulls hovering, Auspex scanners humming. Their sensors swept the doctor from head to toe, returning readings that made little sense even to their advanced instruments. No identifiable gene seed. One servo skull reported in a hollow voice. Chronological anomaly detected. Estimated age, indeterminate. Dravik's brow furrowed. A Xenos sorcerer, perhaps, or worse. The doctor chuckled softly. I prefer traveler. And if you think I'm a sorcerer, you've got a very strange idea of magic. Before Dravik could respond, the TARDIS door creaked open. Both turned toward it. The golden light from within spilled across the cracked stones, shimmering like dawn. Dravik instinctively reached for his bolt pistol. The doctor raised a hand. Don't. She doesn't like weapons pointed at her. She, Dravik repeated, narrowing his eyes. She's alive. Not in the way you'd define it. But she thinks, she feels, and right now, she's very cross with everyone in a 5-mile radius. So please, holster the gun, and let's try to be civilized. The Inquisitor hesitated only a second before lowering his weapon. You claim your craft is sentient, he said. If that's true, it will be examined by the Mechanicus. The doctor walked toward the TARDIS, running a hand along its weathered surface. Examined? Oh no. The last time someone tried that, half their instruments turned into flowers and started quoting poetry. She doesn't like being poked. Heretic humor, Dravik said coldly. You understand this world operates under the divine law of the Emperor. You stand in violation of it. The doctor turned back, his expression softening. I've heard of your Emperor. The god of mankind, they call him. I've seen enough timelines to know what happens when people worship power instead of compassion. He looked around at the ruins. It always ends like this. Something flickered in Dravik's eyes. Anger, perhaps, or curiosity. You speak of compassion as if it were a weapon. It is, the doctor said simply, and it's the one thing your universe has almost forgotten. Dravik stepped closer, towering over him. You presume much, alien. You stand within the Imperium of man, an empire that has endured 10,000 years of war and still holds the line. The doctor looked up at him, voice quiet but unyielding. And how many have you killed to hold it? The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Dravik's jaw tightened. You will come with me, voluntarily, or by force. The doctor sighed. Fine, but if you're planning on putting me in chains, I'll warn you now. Time travel and manacles don't mix well. They departed together, the TARDIS fading from view as if in silent agreement. Dravik's shuttle, a gunmetal grey craft etched with purity seals, ascended through the dust storms, leaving the dead city behind. From orbit, the planet looked like a scar, one more forgotten battlefield in a galaxy that no longer remembered peace. Inside the shuttle, the doctor sat calmly as servitors scanned him again, their red optics flickering. Dravik stood near the cockpit, speaking in clipped binary cant with his pilot. Destination, the Tricorn Palace, Segmentum Solar, he said. Authorization under Ordo Xenos protocols. The doctor arched an eyebrow. Ordo Xenos? You think I'm an alien invader? That's flattering, but I'm more of a cosmic tourist, really. Dravik ignored him. You will be judged by the conclave. If your intentions are benign, you will live. If not— Yes, yes, the doctor interrupted. Execution, purging, burning, all that delightful medieval stuff. You people really love your drama. The Inquisitor turned, his voice colder than the void. Do not mock the Emperor's justice. I'm not mocking it, the doctor said softly. I'm mourning it. For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of engines and the crackle of the Voxcaster. Then the ship shuddered. A violent tremor rippled through the hull. The servitors screeched binary alarms as the pilot barked reports. Contact, multiple signatures emerging from the warp. Dravik spun toward the viewport. The stars distorted, bleeding light like ink in water. Shapes crawled from the rift, organic, terrible, alive. The doctor recognized them instantly, his expression darkening. Tyranids. The Inquisitor's face hardened. By the Emperor. The ship rocked again as spore mines detonated nearby. We're caught in their shadow field, shouted the pilot. Engines failing. Divert power to the void shields, Dravik commanded. The doctor was already moving, sprinting to the controls. You'll never outrun them in that cloud. They're faster, hungrier, and they can smell your fear. You need to break orbit immediately. This vessel obeys my command, Dravik barked. The doctor glanced back, voice sharp with urgency. Then command it to survive. The Inquisitor hesitated only a fraction before nodding. Helm, emergency ascent, angle 97 degrees, burn the plasma drives. The ship roared, engines screaming as it clawed upward through the planet's stratosphere. Through the viewport, the doctor watched the swarm below, a tide of living nightmares consuming everything in sight. His heart's clenched. So much death, so much waste. You pity the enemies of man, Dravik demanded. I pity anyone forced to live in a universe that breeds monsters, the doctor said. Even you. The Tyranids fired bioplasma volleys, striking the rear thrusters. Flames burst along the hull. The doctor grabbed the railing as the cabin shook violently. You're not going to make it like this, he warned. Your ship's too small. You need a bigger door. Dravik frowned. What? The doctor pointed to the viewport, where, against all odds, the TARDIS now floated beside them. Impossible, shining faintly blue in the void. That door? Dravik's eyes widened. That's impossible. Yes, yes, I get that a lot. Now get your men inside. How? Dravik demanded. We cannot dock with a vessel that size. You don't need to, the doctor said, already flipping open his sonic screwdriver. Just hold on. A blinding flash filled the cabin. When it cleared, they were standing inside the TARDIS. The technopriests gasped, their mechanical limbs twitching as their optical sensors took in the impossible interior. The vast, cathedral-like space hummed with living light. One muttered a prayer, another fainted. Dravik stood motionless, his iron resolve momentarily shaken. It's larger inside. The doctor grinned. It's always larger inside. Outside, the swarm enveloped the planet, devouring it completely. From the TARDIS console, the doctor watched the chaos through temporal screens, thousands of life signs extinguished in minutes. He leaned forward, fingers dancing over the controls. We can't save them all, but we can save what's left of you. You presume command of Imperial property? Dravik snapped. I'm trying to save your life, the doctor shot back. You can file your paperwork after. He pulled a final lever, and the TARDIS lurched through time and space, the roar of the engines echoing through the chamber, like thunder. When the turbulence subsided, silence fell. Dravik looked around. Where have you taken us? The doctor exhaled, glancing at the console's readouts. Somewhere safe, relatively speaking. The main doors opened to reveal a view of deep space, vast, calm, dotted with dying suns. A graveyard of derelict ships drifted silently beyond. Dravik stepped forward, eyes narrowing. This is the Halo of Fire, an Imperial tomb fleet, lost for over 3 millennia. The doctor joined him at the doorway, his voice quiet. Lost? Yes, but maybe not dead. Lights flickered across the nearest hulk, faint, pulsing, like a heartbeat. And then, across the Vox, a whisper came, "We have been waiting for you, Doctor." For a long moment, the doctor said nothing. The words seemed to echo through the TARDIS itself, resonating not through sound, but through time. Dravik's hand went instinctively to his pistol, while the servo skulls swarmed around him in agitation, scanning the void beyond the doorway. "Identify yourself," Dravik barked, his voice cutting through the silence. "By authority of the Holy Inquisition, I demand—" The doctor raised a hand. "No, don't," he said quietly. "It's not broadcasting on your frequency. It's older, much older." He stepped toward the open doors, his eyes narrowing as he stared out at the massive derelicts, drifting in the dark hulks of ancient ships, their hulls fused together by time and gravity. The faint pulses of light spread like veins through their ruins, connecting them, like something alive, or something remembering how to be. Dravik frowned. "What manner of sorcery is this?" "Not sorcery," the doctor murmured. "Something closer to a memory." He adjusted the TARDIS scanner. The central console lit up with data, a storm of signals that defied categorization. Fragments of binary code, psychic residue, time distortion fields interlaced with human transmissions. It was impossible, and yet unmistakable. "They're dead ships," the doctor said softly. "But the souls of their crews didn't leave. They're caught in the warp field, cycling endlessly through what's left of their machine spirits." Dravik's expression hardened. "You speak heresy. The souls of men belong to the Emperor." The doctor looked up from the console, his gaze sharp. "Do they? Because these ones don't seem to know that." Before Dravik could answer, the TARDIS lights dimmed. The hum deepened into a low, almost mournful tone. The doctor glanced around, concern flickering across his face. "Oh no, no, not now." "What's happening?" Dravik demanded. "She's picking up the signal," the doctor said. "They're calling to her." "To your machine?" "To me." The TARDIS doors slammed shut. The lights flared, the time rotor rising and falling faster than before. The ship began to shudder, as if resisting something unseen. On the external viewer, the derelicts turned, massive, silent hulks, shifting in unison to face the TARDIS. Dravik steadied himself against a railing. "Explain this." "They're locked in a temporal loop," the doctor said, his voice rapid. "A pocket of reality caught between moments. Something in the warp did this to them, a tear in time, a wound that never healed. And now they think I can fix it." "Can you?" Dravik asked, his tone skeptical but edged with hope he didn't want to admit. The doctor hesitated. "Maybe, but we'd have to enter the loop to find out." Dravik's eyes narrowed. "You would walk willingly into a warp anomaly?" The doctor smiled faintly. "Wouldn't be the first time." Before Dravik could protest, the doctor flipped the final lever. The TARDIS plunged forward through the black, its engines howling, as the graveyard of ships engulfed them. Light fractured, time bent, and suddenly the hum stopped. The doors opened to reveal a different view entirely. They stood now inside one of the derelicts. The corridor stretched endlessly in both directions, lit by flickering lumen strips and the faint glow of dying hololithic runes. Dust floated like mist. Dravik raised his weapon, scanning for movement. The doctor crouched beside a broken console, brushing away grime to reveal a faded insignia. "Imperialis Dominus, 234th Expeditionary Fleet, 32nd Millennium," he murmured. "One of the early fleets after the heresy. They disappeared without a trace." Dravik examined the walls, running a gloved hand across the inscriptions. "Lost to the warp, most likely. Their records were sealed centuries ago." "Not lost," the doctor corrected. "Trapped." As if to prove his point, the lights flickered, and a figure appeared ahead of them. Translucent, human-shaped, dressed in tattered naval uniform. A ghost. It spoke, though its mouth didn't move. "You shouldn't have come." Dravik aimed his pistol. "Show yourself." The doctor stepped forward, lowering the weapon with a hand. "No. Wait. It's not real. Not anymore. It's a residual consciousness." The ghost's eyes fixed on him. "You can hear us." "I can," the doctor said gently. "I'm sorry for what happened to you." "We tried to escape," the apparition whispered. "But the stars screamed, the navigator burned. We prayed to the Emperor, but he did not answer." The doctor's voice softened. "He never does." The ghost reached toward him, its form flickering like static. "They are coming. They are hungry." Dravik tensed. "What does it mean?" The doctor frowned. "Something's feeding on the energy of the loop. Something alive inside the warp wound. It's using these ships like bait." The lights dimmed again. This time, the air grew colder. Metallic groans echoed through the corridor, followed by the distant sound of claws scraping metal. Dravik turned sharply. "Contacts?" "Not Tyranids," the doctor said. "Something worse." From the darkness ahead, shapes began to emerge. Figures that moved like shadows wearing human skin. Twisted remnants of the crew, their bodies warped by centuries of psychic corruption. Their faces stretched in silent screams. Their limbs reshaped by the warp's cruel artistry. Dravik fired his bolt pistol. The nearest creature exploded in a burst of ichor and smoke. But two more took its place. "Back," he ordered. "Form a perimeter." The doctor didn't move. Instead, he stared at the advancing figures, a deep sadness in his eyes. "They're not alive, not in any way that matters. They're echoes, memories turned into monsters." Dravik gritted his teeth. "Then we destroy them." "No," the doctor shouted. "Killing them feeds it. That's what it wants." Before the Inquisitor could respond, the deck buckled. A deep vibration tore through the hull. The shadows dissolved, replaced by a blinding surge of red light that filled every corner of the ship. The doctor threw up his arm to shield his face. When the glare faded, they were no longer in the corridor. They stood in what looked like a cathedral. Vast, decaying, yet impossibly grand, 1,000 candles burned in mid-air, casting eerie halos of light. At the far end, a throne of bone and metal waited, and on that throne sat a creature draped in what had once been imperial robes. Its skull gleamed beneath parchment-thin skin. Warp fire burned in its eyes. Dravik froze. By the throne, a demon. The doctor didn't answer. His gaze locked on the creature, studying its form, its breathing, its voice as it spoke. "Time Lord," it said. "You walk in the Emperor's shadow, yet you carry no faith. You are not bound to the skein of fate. You are an outsider." The doctor straightened. "And you are feeding on the souls of the dead." The demon's grin widened. "They begged for salvation. I gave them eternity." "You gave them torment," the doctor said, stepping forward. "You've woven them into a loop so you can keep feeding. Why?" "Because I am hunger," the demon whispered. "I am what your kind fled from when the warp first called. I am what the galaxy becomes when hope dies." The doctor's jaw tightened. "Then you're exactly why I'm here." He turned to Dravik. "Get back to the TARDIS. I do not take orders from—" "Do it," the doctor snapped. "If I fail, you'll need to destroy this entire section of space." Dravik hesitated, his instincts torn between duty and disbelief. But something in the doctor's tone, a certainty born of centuries, compelled obedience. He backed away toward the corridor as the demon rose from its throne, wings of liquid darkness unfurling. The doctor stood his ground. "You can't have them anymore," he said softly. "You can't keep them trapped here." "They are mine," the demon hissed. "Their faith sustained me for millennia, and now your light will too." The doctor smiled sadly. "I've seen gods rise and fall. I've seen universes burn, but I've never seen a monster that wasn't deep down afraid of the dark." He raised his sonic screwdriver. The air shimmered, and the demons screamed. The demon's roar ripped through the hull of the ancient ship, shaking the cathedral walls like paper. The air convulsed as the creature unfolded its form, an impossible geometry of flesh and shadow, its wings stretching across dimensions, its voice echoing through both time and mind. The candles guttered out, one by one, until only the red glow of the demon's essence remained. The doctor stood perfectly still, his coat whipping around him in the storm of psychic wind. "You've had your feast long enough," he said, his tone no longer light or curious, but edged with authority. "Time to let them go." The demon's laughter was a shriek that bent the air. "You command me, mortal. You, who drifted here by chance, who clings to time as a dying man clings to breath." "I'm not asking," the doctor said. "I'm ending this." He extended the sonic screwdriver. The pitch of its hum climbed higher and higher until it became almost unbearable, resonating through the cathedral's structure. The walls pulsed, reality itself beginning to fracture around them. Golden light spilled from the device's tip, striking the ground like rippling waves. The demons screamed again, recoiling. "No, this realm is mine. You cannot unmake it." "Oh, I can," the doctor said, "because this isn't your realm. It's a distortion anchored by pain. And pain," he twisted the dial, the light intensifying, "can be healed." The glow from the sonic expanded, forming a dome around them. Within its light, the shadows peeled away from the walls, revealing faces, hundreds, thousands of human souls. their eyes wide with release. They whispered in gratitude, their forms dissolving into the light. The demon staggered, its wings dissolving into vapor. "You dare rob me," it bellowed. "I am eternal." "Everything ends," the doctor replied. "Even you." The light flared one last time, and the cathedral collapsed inward like shattered glass. When the doctor opened his eyes again, he was lying on the metal floor of the TARDIS. The hum was calm now, steady, like a heartbeat returning to normal after a long run. He blinked, disoriented. The smell of ozone lingered in the air. Dravik stood nearby, scorched but alive. His armor was cracked, his face pale. "What did you do?" he demanded, voice hoarse. "The entire Hulk just vanished." The doctor pulled himself to his feet, leaning on the console. "Not vanished, released. I collapsed the temporal loop and purged the warp infection. Those souls are free now." "You tampered with the fabric of reality," Dravik said. "You violated every law of physics and faith known to mankind." The doctor looked at him tiredly. "Your laws don't mean much to the dead." Dravik stepped closer. "You've seen what lurks in the warp. You've faced it and lived. That knowledge alone makes you a threat. The Inquisition will want your secrets." The doctor chuckled weakly. "Oh, they always do. Every empire wants the same thing. Control. But you can't control time, Inquisitor. You can only walk with it, and hope it doesn't walk away from you." Dravik's expression darkened. "You speak as if time itself were alive." The doctor smiled faintly. "Isn't it?" The Inquisitor studied him for a long moment, as if weighing whether to kill him or recruit him. Finally, he holstered his pistol. "You claim to be a traveler. Then travel. Leave Imperial space. If I ever find you again—" The doctor raised an eyebrow. "You'll shoot me?" "I'll have you dissected by the Mechanicus," Dravik said flatly. "Your kind is too dangerous to exist in this age." The doctor sighed. "You know, I think that's what everyone says right before history proves them wrong." Dravik didn't answer. He turned sharply toward the doors, gesturing to the servo skulls to follow. But before he stepped out, he paused. "Doctor," he said, "what were those things we saw? Those shadows?" The doctor's face turned solemn. "Echoes of what the warp really is. Not demons, not gods. Just pain made visible. Every scream, every loss, every act of hatred you people have ever committed feeds it. You call it chaos. I call it consequence." Dravik's eyes flickered with unease. "Then what hope do we have?" The doctor looked up at the glowing time rotor. "The same hope you've always had. That one day, someone decides to be kind." Dravik said nothing more. The TARDIS doors opened, revealing a barren asteroid field bathed in pale light. Without a word, he stepped out and vanished into the void, his shuttle waiting beyond. The doors closed softly behind him. The doctor leaned against the console, exhaling slowly. "Well," he said to the empty room, "that could have gone worse." The TARDIS responded with a low, affectionate hum. He smiled faintly. "You did well, old girl, now. Where to next?" The time rotor began to spin again. But then, unexpectedly, the console flickered. A warning tone filled the air. The doctor frowned. "What now?" The central screen glowed with lines of alien script, symbols that shifted and rearranged themselves before his eyes. Not Imperial, not Mechanicus. Something far older. He read the final translation aloud. "You are not the first Time Lord to come here." The doctor froze. "That's impossible." The coordinates appeared next. A sector deep within the segmentum obscurus, on the edge of Imperial charting. A place marked only by a single, archaic designation. Caliban's Fall. The doctor stared at the name for a long moment, his mind racing. "No," he whispered. "They can't be here." He turned toward the controls, his voice grim. "If they've found this universe, everything changes. Hours, or perhaps centuries. Later, the TARDIS emerged from the warp above a shattered planet. Its surface was scarred and broken, dotted with the ruins of colossal fortresses. The doctor stepped out into the ash-laden wind, scanning the horizon with the sonic screwdriver. The readings were faint but unmistakable. Temporal residue, identical to that of a TARDIS. He crouched beside a crater, brushing away dust to reveal a fragment of blue metal. Battered, corroded, but undeniably Gallifreyan, his throat tightened. A second TARDIS, or what was left of one. The faint hum of the time rotor still lingered, buried beneath rubble. Someone, or something, had torn it apart from within. Around it, strange, mechanical remains were scattered, fragments of power armor, adorned with the insignia of the Dark Angels. The doctor exhaled. "So that's how it is." He turned slowly and froze. Standing atop a ridge was a figure in black and green power armor, cloaked in shadow. His helm bore no insignia. His voice, when he spoke, was deep and deliberate. "You trespass on sacred ground." "I didn't mean to," the doctor said quietly, "but it seems one of mine did, a long time ago." The warrior descended the slope, each step heavy with purpose. "There was a man," he said. "He appeared during the Great Crusade. He carried no weapons, spoke in riddles, and vanished as quickly as he came. The lion himself could not decide if he was a prophet or a curse." The doctor's gaze sharpened. "What did he call himself?" The warrior hesitated. "He called himself the Watchmaker." The doctor went still. Every trace of color drained from his face. "Oh no," he whispered. "Not him." The warrior raised his bolter. "You will explain." The doctor didn't move. His voice was barely audible, but each word carried the weight of centuries. "The Watchmaker isn't just another Time Lord. He's what happens when one of us stops believing that time should be kind." The warrior's finger tightened on the trigger. "And why would such a being come here?" The doctor met his gaze. "To finish what the war never could. To fix the universe by breaking it." The wind howled across the dead planet as the TARDIS hummed behind him, its blue light flickering faintly in the storm. The doctor's expression hardened. "And if he's still out there, then the Imperium hasn't seen horror yet." The warp storm had grown to a constant roar outside the shattered manufactorum. Every bolt of unreal lightning painted the landscape in blinding hues of green and violet, while the air itself vibrated with psychic turbulence. The doctor stood at the edge of a ruined causeway, his coat whipping in the howling gale, watching as a regiment of Cadian shock troops formed firing lines below. They were terrified, and rightfully so. Something vast was moving through the storm, something that bled reality wherever it passed. He turned to the Inquisitor beside him. Lady Varana Holt of the Ordo Xenos, a woman whose every syllable carried the weight of sanctioned authority and veiled threat. Her power armor was inscribed with prayers of warding, and her bionic eye glowed faintly red as it scanned the chaos unfolding. "You said you've seen demons before," she said, voice cutting through the wind. "You understand what we face?" "I've seen monsters," the doctor replied somberly. "I've fought creatures that feed on fear, that twist thought into weapon. But this," he gestured toward the storm, "this isn't just a creature. It's a fracture in the fabric of space and time. It's a wound that doesn't want to heal." Holt frowned. "Poetic words won't help us, alien." "I'm not alien," he said, meeting her gaze. "I'm just Not from here. Below, the storm erupted as a colossal form pushed through the veil, a demon prince, its flesh a shifting lattice of iron, sinew, and warp light. The soldiers opened fire, laser guns blazing, but their shots seemed to dissolve before reaching the creature's skin. The doctor raised his sonic screwdriver and murmured, "Oh, that's not good." "Explain," Holt demanded. "Your guns are useless. That thing is operating on layered frequencies of existence. It's half here, half somewhere else. You're firing at its shadow." The demon bellowed, a sound that rippled through the air like tearing metal servitors short-circuited. Vox units screamed static. Even Holt flinched. "Then what do you propose?" she hissed. "Something clever." He pointed the sonic toward the Cadian command post. Moments later, the Vox arrays flickered to life, distorted but functional. "Captain," the doctor shouted over the comm, "fall back to the generatorium, draw it toward the plasma conduits." "Who in the Emperor's name are you?" came the reply. "Someone trying to make sure you live long enough to ask questions later." The troops moved, disciplined despite their fear, retreating under covering fire. Holt followed, glaring at the doctor, but saying nothing. The demon pursued, smashing through ferrocrete walls like paper. As they reached the generatorium, a towering structure of humming conduits and glowing coils, the doctor scanned the surrounding energy fields. "Perfect," he muttered. "Massive plasma network, just waiting for a little redirection." "You plan to destroy it?" Holt asked. "Redirect it," he corrected. "Think of it as cauterizing a wound in the warp." She stared at him. "You speak of manipulating energies you can't possibly comprehend. Only a sanctioned psyker or tech priest would dare." "I've flown through stars and danced on the event horizons of black holes," he interrupted softly. "I can handle a bit of plasma." She didn't respond, but when the demon tore through the outer wall, she didn't stop him either. The doctor sprinted across the gantries, sonic buzzing, rewiring control relays, and reconfiguring energy nodes. Sparks cascaded as the reactor core flared. Come on," he whispered. "Just a little more." The demon roared again, voice dripping with contempt. "Tiny thing, you meddle in the domain of gods." "I've met gods," the doctor shouted back. "You're not one of them." The creature lunged, claws crashing down. The doctor dove aside as Holt unleashed her inferno pistol, molten plasma burning a hole in the daemon's chest. It staggered just long enough for the doctor to finish his work. He slammed his hand on the main console. The generatorium screamed with power. Blue-white arcs of plasma surged through the conduits, forming a lattice of blinding light that enveloped the demon. The air folded inward. The creature howled, a sound that made reality tremble, and was torn back into the warp. Then silence. The storm outside began to recede, fading like a dying breath. The doctor stood, brushing dust from his coat. "See? Clever." Holt regarded him for a long moment. "You just saved a regiment of the Astra Militarum." "Yes, well, it's kind of a hobby," he said lightly, though his eyes betrayed the exhaustion behind the smile. "Your knowledge of the warp," Holt said, "of temporal anomalies. You're not just a wanderer. You're something else. The Ordo Malleus will want to speak with you." "Oh, they'll want more than that," he muttered. "They'll want to dissect me, study my ship, and probably declare me a heretic before tea." She didn't deny it. "Then run," she said simply, "before the inquisitorial fleet arrives." He stared at her, surprised. "You're letting me go?" "You stabilized a warp breach," Holt said. "That buys you one act of mercy. But understand this, the Imperium does not forgive outsiders. If we cross paths again, I will not hesitate." The doctor nodded. That's fair. Moments later, the TARDIS hummed to life. As he stepped inside, Holt watched with narrowed eyes as the blue box dematerialized into thin air, leaving only the whisper of displaced wind. But the story was far from over. Days later, aboard a Mechanicus vessel orbiting the storm's aftermath, tech priest Dominus Rill Vaughan examined the remaining traces of temporal energy. His augmetic eyes flickered with wonder. Anomaly persists, he whispered. Time itself was rewound by 0.03 seconds across a 5-kilometer radius. To his surprise, a voice answered, faint, echoing through the machine's spirit comms. You're welcome, said the doctor's voice. The Mechanicus froze. Identify. Oh, just a passing traveler, the doctor continued. Tell your Magos not to tamper with the residual warp energy. It's dormant, for now, but if you poke it too hard, it'll wake up cranky. Impossible, Vaughan stammered. This frequency is isolated. Not for me, said the doctor. Good luck with your cogitators, by the way. You've got a feedback loop in your fourth relay, might want to fix that. Then the line went dead. Back inside the TARDIS, the doctor leaned against the console, frowning. The readings were still wrong. The warp was not a single tier, but a chain of distortions stretching across multiple sectors. The Inquisition's beacon had attracted something vast, predatory, and ancient. He stared at the display as a familiar blue-white icon pulsed, the Eye of Terror. Ah, he murmured. That explains it. He turned a switch, setting coordinates for a nearby system, a shrine world named Seraphis. 4 reports spoke of mass hallucinations, time slips, and strange lights in the sky. As the engines groaned to life, the doctor whispered to himself, one universe of madness meets another. What could possibly go wrong? The TARDIS vanished into the void once more. Far across the stars, within the depths of the eye, something stirred. A voice, older than humanity, whispered through the warp. The traveler moves through our sea. He will learn that time has no meaning here. The laughter that followed wasn't human. And on the bridge of an Imperial battleship, Inquisitor Holt received a transmission marked with an impossible seal, a spiraling glyph that no Lex mechanic could decode. It simply read, He's coming. Seraphis IV had once been beautiful, a shrine world of marble cathedrals, golden spires, and oceans that glittered like liquid sapphire under the light of twin suns. But now, its skies bled red. Vast auroras of warp energy shimmered overhead, twisting clouds into impossible shapes. Time itself wavered. The suns seemed to rise and set twice each day, and sometimes the stars rearranged themselves like shuffling cards. The TARDIS materialized in the shadow of a ruined basilica, its doors opening with a groan. The doctor stepped out, scanning the landscape with quiet dread. The wind carried a whisper, half prayer, half scream. Never good when the air itself talks, he muttered, flicking his sonic screwdriver open. All right, let's see what you're hiding. The readings were chaotic, fluctuating chronotemporal fields intertwined with psychic emissions. Something was bleeding through from the warp, but not in the usual sense. This wasn't possession or summoning. This was communication. He moved cautiously through the broken plaza, past toppled statues of saints. The ground was littered with prayer scrolls, each one scorched at the edges. In the distance, the ruins of the ecclesiastical cathedral loomed like a wounded god. As he approached, a sound stopped him. Footsteps, armored and deliberate. He turned to see a squad of Sisters of Battle emerging from the smoke, bolters raised. Their leader, Canoness Evandra Liss, was a towering figure in black and gold armor, her expression hard as obsidian. "Identify yourself," she commanded. The doctor raised his hands. "Hello, I'm the doctor. You've got a bit of a reality leak on your hands, and I thought I'd pop by to—" "Silence," she snapped. "No one approaches the holy ruins without sanction. You will answer to the Inquisition." "Oh, not again," he sighed. "Look, I've just come from one Inquisitor lovely woman. Bit intense. Do you all have the same recruitment brochure, or is that just a fashion thing?" Evandra's eyes narrowed. "You mock the servants of the Emperor?" "Never mock," the doctor said. "Tease, maybe, but never mock." Before she could reply, the ground shuddered violently. The ruined cathedral's bells began to toll, though no hands touched them. A pulse of psychic force rippled through the air, knocking several sisters off their feet. The doctor steadied himself against a column. "That's it," he whispered. "That's the breach." The sky above the cathedral split open, revealing a rift of roiling warp light. From within came voices, countless, overlapping, chanting in tones that made the air vibrate. The doctor's face hardened. "Back away from the structure," he shouted. "Everyone now!" Evandra hesitated, torn between faith and survival. But something in the doctor's voice made her listen. The sisters fell back as the rift widened, spilling spectral light across the plaza. Figures began to emerge, not demons, but echoes. Ghostly forms dressed in ancient armor, their faces hollow, their eyes like mirrors. They spoke in fragmented words. "Time breaks, the song of the machine." The doctor's expression darkened. "No, not ghosts, projections." He turned to Evandra. "Your world's bleeding into its own past. The warp is reflecting temporal memory." "You speak heresy," she hissed. "I speak physics," he snapped. "Your Emperor's light isn't the only thing that bends reality." The apparitions began to collapse inward, fusing into a vortex of golden energy. For a brief moment, the doctor saw something, a sigil of 8 stars surrounding a spiraling eye. His heart sank. "Oh no, that's not random. That's designed." The vortex exploded, throwing him backward. When he came to, the sky was calm again. But the rift was gone, replaced by a smooth, glassy crater. At its center stood a single object, a black monolith covered in glowing inscriptions. Evandra and her remaining sisters approached cautiously. "What is it?" The doctor knelt beside it, running his hand along the surface. "A beacon, and not from your galaxy." "Explain." "It's a signal conduit. Quantum, cross-dimensional. Someone is trying to reach through your reality, and I think I know who." Her hand went to her bolter. "Name it." He looked up slowly, eyes grave. "The Great Intelligence. It's been here before. My universe. My time. But the warp—" He glanced toward the crimson sky. "The warp gives it form. Here, it doesn't just whisper into minds, it feeds on them." Evandra frowned. "Then it is a demon." "Worse," he said softly. "It's an idea that learned to live." Before they could speak further, a Vox unit crackled on Evandra's wrist. "Canoness, this is Sister Colleen. The Inquisitor has arrived." Evandra looked at him sharply. "Inquisitor?" The doctor's stomach sank. "Oh, brilliant. She's not going to be happy." Moments later, thunder rolled as a gunship descended, engines screaming. It landed near the plaza, and Inquisitor Verana Holt stepped out, flanked by stormtroopers. Her armor gleamed in the warped light, her expression unreadable. "I thought you'd fled," she said coldly. "I did," the doctor admitted. "But the universe has a way of pulling me back to the bad ideas." She gestured to the monolith. "What is that?" He met her gaze. "An invitation. To what? Something that wants to make your galaxy a permanent paradox. Holt motioned to her men. Secure it. The doctor grabbed her arm. No, don't touch it. It's reactive to neural patterns, your thoughts, your fears, your faith. It will use them against you. Step aside, Holt ordered. The doctor stared at her, his voice low but fierce. You don't understand. You think the warp is dangerous because it's full of monsters, but it's dangerous because it listens every thought in your Imperium, every prayer, every whisper, fuels it. This thing wants to amplify that. It wants to turn belief into annihilation. For a moment, Holt hesitated. Then she nodded. Fine. What do you suggest? He turned to the TARDIS. Containment field. I can phase it into a pocket of null time, but I'll need your troops to hold the perimeter. Do it, she said. As he ran back to the TARDIS, the monolith began to hum. Symbols shifted across its surface, rearranging into a new pattern, a sigil that looked disturbingly like an eye made of flame. The doctor worked frantically, rerouting power through the TARDIS's temporal shields. Come on, old girl, he whispered. Just a little more. The hum grew into a deafening pulse. Holt's troops raised their weapons, but the doctor shouted, No shooting. Energy weapons will... Too late. A single shot from a nervous soldier struck the monolith. It shattered like glass, releasing a wave of psychic energy that swept across the plaza. Time fractured. For a moment, everyone froze, literally. The doctor felt himself stretch across infinity, existing in 1,000 instants at once. He saw the rise and fall of empires, the death of stars, the emperor's golden throne, flickering in decay. Then, as suddenly as it began, the moment snapped back. The doctor collapsed to his knees, gasping. The plaza was empty. The sisters, the soldiers, even Holt, gone. Only the monolith's ashes remained, glowing faintly in the wind. He stood, staring around in horror. No! The TARDIS lights flickered. A voice echoed through the console, distorted, cold. Doctor. He froze. No, you're supposed to be gone. Different universe, different rules. The voice of the great intelligence filled the air, weaving through the hum of the TARDIS. You opened the door between realities. I merely stepped through. The doctor's hands tightened on the console. You don't belong here. Neither do you. The TARDIS shuddered violently. Outside, the sky tore open once again. But this time, it wasn't just Seraphis IV. Across the sector, warp storms flared like blooming scars. The great intelligence laughed, and the doctor whispered to himself, I've made a terrible mistake. The TARDIS screamed through the maelstrom, battered by currents of warped time. Every console light flickered red, sparks flying from the controls as the doctor fought to stabilize her course. The ship wasn't just traveling through the warp anymore. It was inside the great intelligence's influence. Reality bent like liquid glass, and the temporal coordinates refused to hold steady. Come on, old girl, he shouted, slamming a lever. Don't you give up on me now. The time rotor ground to a halt. For a moment, the only sound was the low hum of strained power cells. Then, silence. The doctor stepped back, breathing hard. Right, he murmured. Let's see where we've landed this time. The monitor flickered to life, showing a planet bathed in a crimson glow. Gigantic spires pierced the clouds like obsidian teeth. The air shimmered with energy, and faint in the distance stood a structure so vast it dwarfed mountains, a fortress cathedral surrounded by swirling warp storms. Of course, he said grimly, the segmentum obscurus, right on the edge of the Eye of Terror, perfect vacation spot. He adjusted his coat and stepped outside. The world was silent. Ash fell from the sky like snow. The ground was cracked and blackened, littered with fragments of statues depicting imperial saints. He took a cautious step forward, the sonic screwdriver buzzing softly. The readings made his stomach tighten. Temporal echoes, psychic resonance, and, oh, that's not good. That's very not good. Before he could continue, a voice cut through the haze. Identify yourself. The doctor turned, slowly. Out of the smoke emerged a squad of grey-armored warriors, space marines, towering giants, clad in power armor, bearing the sigil of the Inquisition. Their leader's crimson cloak fluttered in the burning wind. "Hello," the doctor said quickly. "I'm the doctor. I'm, probably not who you're looking for, but I think we're both about to have a very bad day." The leader's helm retracted, revealing a scarred face with piercing blue eyes. "I am Brother Captain Dalen Varric of the Grey Knights. No one comes to this world unbidden. Explain yourself." The doctor gestured at the distant cathedral. "That thing in the sky, the energy surge, the warp disturbance, it's not just your typical demon outbreak. Something older, something cleverer has arrived. I'm trying to stop it." Varric frowned. "You speak of the Great Intelligence." The doctor blinked. "You've heard of it. The Ordo Malleus keeps record of all warp entities that exhibit higher thought," Varric said grimly. "This one has consumed 2 inquisitorial outposts in the past solar week. Entire garrisons vanished without trace. The Emperor's Tarot has gone silent in this sector." "Well," the doctor said softly, "that explains the sense of déjà vu. It's building a network, using your faith, your psychic infrastructure, to make itself corporeal. It's trying to rewrite your reality." Varric stared at him. "And you propose to stop it? Alone?" He smiled faintly. "I've been alone for a very long time. Doesn't mean I plan to stay that way." The Grey Knight studied him a moment longer, then nodded. "You will accompany us to the Cathedral of St. Celestine. Our librarians sense the heart of the corruption there." The doctor followed without protest. The march through the desolation was eerily silent. The closer they came to the cathedral, the stronger the psychic pressure grew, pressing against his mind like a storm of whispers. When they reached the gates, the scale took his breath away. The doors were 50 meters tall, carved with scenes of the Emperor's triumphs. Now they bled. The gold was tarnished black, and faint light pulsed from within like a heartbeat. Varric signaled. The gates groaned open, revealing a vast nave filled with floating debris and shattered pews. In the center, a swirling mass of energy hovered above the altar, a vortex of light and shadow. The doctor's expression hardened. "That's not a rift, that's a memory engine." Varric turned. "Explain." "It's using the psychic residue of this world, every prayer, every death, every scream, to construct itself. It's building a body out of faith." He approached, slowly, sonic in hand. "Don't get too close. It's watching us." A low voice echoed through the chamber. "Doctor?" The Grey Knights raised their weapons. The vortex pulsed brighter. "You cannot win here. This galaxy thrives on belief, on endless devotion. I am belief made form. I am the dream that never ends." The doctor's eyes narrowed. "You feed on thought, on conviction. You twist reality through perception. That's how you survived in my universe. But here," he glanced at Varric, "you're standing in a galaxy built on faith. You've found your paradise." The intelligence's voice purred. "And you brought me the final key, your ship, the machine that defies time itself." The TARDIS, still parked outside, shuddered violently. Blue light leaked from its seams. "No!" the doctor shouted, sprinting for the doors. "You can't have her!" He burst outside, Just as the TARDIS lights flared, blinding white energy tendrils shot into the sky, linking with the warp storms above. "Stop!" he cried, scanning furiously. "She's fighting back, but it's feeding through her dimensional circuits." Varric joined him, bolter ready. "What is happening?" "It's trying to possess her," the doctor said through gritted teeth. "She's not just a machine. She's alive. And if it succeeds, it'll have control over every point in time and space." The Grey Knight raised his sword. "Then we destroy it." The doctor spun on him, furious. "You can't destroy her. She's the only thing keeping this universe from collapsing." The ground trembled. From the cathedral's roof, warp light poured upward, forming the vague outline of a humanoid figure. Immense, luminous, its face shifting constantly between angelic and monstrous. "You cannot comprehend eternity, Doctor, but you have shown me its door." The doctor's expression turned deadly calm. "I've seen eternity. I've lost people to it. You don't deserve it." He raised the sonic and activated a sequence on his wristwatch. A low hum filled the air. Varric looked at him sharply. "What have you done?" "Triggered a temporal inversion loop," the doctor said. "It'll trap the intelligence's signal inside its own feedback pattern, but I'll need to sync it with the TARDIS before it burns out the planet." "Then do it." The doctor dashed toward the TARDIS, the psychic storm growing ever stronger. His coat snapped in the wind as debris swirled around him. Every step felt like wading through fire. He could hear the great intelligence whispering in his mind, not taunting, but curious. "You could join me," it murmured. "You could save them all. No more loss, no more death, just infinite control." He kept running. Control without compassion isn't salvation, it's damnation. He reached the TARDIS doors, slammed his hand against them, and they opened. The interior flickered between blue and crimson, fighting for dominance. "Hold on," he whispered. "Hold on, please." Inside, he dove for the console, frantically entering commands. Sparks exploded. The time rotor screamed. The great intelligence's voice filled the chamber. "You cannot resist. I am every thought, every soul that ever prayed for deliverance." The doctor's voice rose above the chaos. "Then hear this, all of you. Hope isn't obedience. Faith isn't fear. The universe is vast and terrifying. Yes, but it's beautiful because it changes." He slammed a lever down. The entire TARDIS flared with light. Outside, the cathedral shook violently as a shock wave erupted from the blue box. The energy lattice connecting it to the warp fractured, shattering like glass. The colossal figure screamed, its body dissolving into motes of golden dust that spiraled into the void. Then, silence. The storm broke. The sky turned blue. For the first time in centuries, the doctor stumbled out, smoking jacket and all, his hair disheveled, but his eyes alive. Varric lowered his weapon. "Is it done?" "For now," the doctor said quietly. "The intelligence is gone, or sleeping. Hard to tell with ideas. They don't die. They just wait to be remembered." He gazed up at the peaceful sky. "But it's over, at least this part." Varric nodded. "The Ordo Malleus will want to question you." "Oh, they always do," the doctor said, stepping back into the TARDIS. "But tell them this. Belief can build worlds, but it can destroy them too. Maybe start believing in something kinder." The doors closed. With a low hum, the TARDIS vanished, leaving behind only the echo of its departure and the faint scent of ozone. But deep within the Eye of Terror, far beyond mortal sight, a fragment of light stirred once more, whispering the doctor's name. The universe exhaled. For a brief, fragile moment, the stars seemed to shine a little clearer. The warp storms quieted, and Seraphis IV's ruined planes, lay in an eerie calm. The doctor floated through the corridors of the TARDIS, exhausted, his coat singed, hair mussed, yet his eyes still scanning, still alert. He knew better than to trust the calm. In the 41st millennium, calm was just a lull before the next apocalypse. The console chimed faintly, alerting him to a temporal anomaly. He frowned. Really? After all that, you find another? Oh, come on. He tapped at the interface. A holographic map flickered to life, showing not just one, but multiple distortions across the segmentum obscurus, extending into the very heart of the Eye of Terror. Lines of energy pulsed like veins, connecting distant systems, each a potential beacon for the great intelligence. Or something even worse. The doctor's face hardened. Well, that's not going to fix itself. He adjusted the coordinates, bringing the TARDIS to a quiet, isolated world near the edge of a warp storm. The planet was barren, grey and cratered, the remains of a long-dead forge world. Its silence was almost oppressive. Stepping out, the doctor felt the residual psychic energy prickling at the back of his mind. Time here didn't flow normally. Seconds stretched like hours, and shadows of past events flickered at the edges of his vision. He adjusted the sonic, scanning for anomalies. Then he heard it, a faint, melodic hum. It wasn't coming from the planet itself. It was coming from the TARDIS, from deep within its own temporal core. Oh no, he muttered. You've got feedback. Something latched onto me back there. He ran back inside, following the hum into the control room. The rotor pulsed erratically. The central console flickered, displaying faces, thousands of them, ghostly echoes of people across time and space. They weren't just images. They were trapped consciousnesses, each one feeding into a coherent pattern. And at the center, the unmistakable signature, the great intelligence. Hello again, it whispered, voice layered and infinite. You cannot stop what is inevitable. I am thought, I am memory, I am the river that flows through every mind. You cannot contain me forever. The doctor's expression was grim. I don't care about inevitability. I care about choice. And I choose to protect the universe, not let you twist it into a prison of your own design. The intelligence's voice grew louder, overlapping every frequency. And yet, here you are, always a step behind, always scrambling. You cannot see the whole. You cannot understand eternity. I don't want to understand eternity, the doctor said, slamming his palm against the console. I just want to make sure people get to live through it. The TARDIS shuddered violently. The walls warped as the great intelligence's presence tried to infiltrate its systems. Panels sparked, and the floor seemed to ripple like water. The doctor's hands flew over the controls. Right, time to improvise. He initiated a temporal inversion loop, similar to what he had used on Seraphis 4, but scaled exponentially. The TARDIS groaned as its engines strained, feeding the loop with every ounce of power it had. The hum intensified, resonating across the time rotor. You cannot contain me, the intelligence shrieked. I am eternal. I am thought itself. Yes, well, eternity has deadlines, the doctor muttered, twisting dials and pressing levers, and yours just arrived. Outside, the air rippled as a shimmering field enveloped the TARDIS. It looked as though the ship were a small island in a sea of liquid time. Within the inversion loop, past and future collided, echoes of the Doctor's earlier encounters with the intelligence in his own universe overlapped with the current threat, forming a tangled lattice of potential outcomes. He spoke aloud, even though the voice was carried away by the resonance. You think you can manipulate reality through belief, but ideas aren't alive. They're reflections of choice. and people will always choose. The TARDIS pulsed, brighter and brighter. For a moment, the Doctor saw every world the great intelligence had touched, civilizations lost, planets reduced to memory, civilizations warped into its vision of perfection. And then he saw the alternatives: worlds saved, lives spared, tiny sparks of defiance against impossible odds. He smiled faintly. That's what you don't get. People aren't predictable. They don't obey calculations or probabilities. They live. With a final twist of the sonic interface, the Doctor activated the loop. The TARDIS glowed white, then blue, then nothing. Outside, the psychic field shattered. The great intelligence's echo screamed, then dissolved, scattering into fragments of light that vanished across the void. The trapped consciousnesses flickered, then returned to their natural flow. Time stabilized. The Doctor slumped in the console chair, exhausted beyond measure. "Well, that's done." A faint voice came from the TARDIS speakers, the echo of someone long gone, someone familiar. "Doctor, thank you," he sighed. "You're welcome, I think. Or you would be, if you could say it clearly." He sat quietly for a moment, listening to the hum of the time rotor, letting the silence wash over him. Then he spoke softly, almost to himself. "Every universe has its monsters. Some are born of flesh, some are born of thought, and some are born because someone forgot to look at the choices that made them." The TARDIS doors opened, revealing the barren expanse of the Forge world. The Doctor stepped outside, taking a deep breath of air that was not warped or bleeding with psychic distortion. For the first time in what felt like years, the universe felt real. He walked among the ruins, brushing his hand against scorched metal and cracked stone. "So many people caught in the tides of things they don't understand," he murmured. "And yet somehow they endure. That's what matters. That's always mattered." He paused, glancing at the stars stretching endlessly above. The Eye of Terror flickered faintly in the distance, a reminder that threats always lingered. But he was not powerless. He never was. The TARDIS chimed, alerting him to a new set of coordinates, a new world, a new disturbance. Perhaps a small temporal anomaly, perhaps another threat, perhaps just someone who needed a friend. He smiled faintly, brushing the soot from his coat. "Well, time to go and see what trouble's waiting. Someone has to make sure the universe doesn't take itself too seriously." The TARDIS doors closed. The familiar wheeze of dematerialization filled the air. Outside, the stars stretched and twisted as the ship vanished, leaving only the echo of possibility behind. In the distant void, a faint shimmer remained where the great intelligence had been, a whisper of thought that trembled, unformed but aware. The universe had won for now, but it would not forget. And somewhere, the Doctor was already moving through time, ready for the next impossible challenge, the next cosmic puzzle, the next battle that required more than mere guns and faith, a battle that required cleverness, heart, and a stubborn refusal to accept that the universe could not be saved. Because that was who he was, the Time Lord, the Traveler, the Doctor, and the galaxy, in all its grim darkness and impossible contradictions, had just been given a fighting chance. He whispered softly to the empty stars, almost as a promise. "No one, not even you, will ever take it away from them. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever." The TARDIS hummed, fading into the vast eternal expanse of space and time, carrying its lone occupant toward the next adventure, toward the endless story that would never truly end.